did it cost?
Everything.
Yes, it did cost everything indeed. Hello everyone and welcome to the RTX 3080 Ti. Our look at the ray tracing performance. We are focusing all of these games that you're going to see is 1440p with ray tracing enabled. Now we're starting off with Quake 2 RTX, the path traced Quake 2 RTX. And if you remember back to my RTX 2070 Super video way back in, well, January of 2020, again, this 1440p native resolution, there's no DLSS, or I think that there is dynamic resolution scaling. It's sitting there at 100%, which means 100% resolution scale, as you can see from the top left frame counter. The Riva Tuner Statistics one, the actual one in game. You can see here it's running at 100% resolution, so full 1440p. And again, the 2070 Super ran at around 30 to 34 FPS. I can't get up that hill there to shoot that, dude. But never mind. Yeah, so you can see here we're getting quite impressive performance. This is the path traced version of Quake 2, so you can see the extreme levels of ray tracing that you get here. Every single thing here, when you shoot the bullet, the lovely little reflections and the lighting effects all change there when you shoot the bullets there. Everything is maxed out here, and yeah, triple the frame rate from the 3080 Ti. This is nice. I like shooting along that corridor there. Pretty nice. Again, triple performance. So it is nice to see that we're getting here. You can light up this area with the gun, which is pretty damn nice. This is pretty nice. I actually really enjoyed playing this game. Got the full game because you need the full version of Quake 2. That did still feeling like shooting at me, so I'm gonna go grab the shotgun. I don't know what happened there. There's an explosion. Oh, that guy must have blew up something there. Anyway, so there, yeah, Quake 2 RTX. It runs amazingly well. Again, we're getting between 80 and 100 FPS. I think it can go to triple digits almost, so that is nice. Again, it is fully GPU bound as any ray traced scenario there. Why didn't that blow up? There you go, blew up now. Anyway, so we'll move on and take a look at something else now. Right, so let's take a look at Control then. Runs perfectly fine. This is 1440p ultra settings, ray tracing on ultra as well, or high. I think it is high and medium. So full ray tracing on, and no DLSS. We should point out none of these games have DLSS. They're all running native resolution. And Control is a tough game to run, but this runs pretty well. Again, the RTX 2070 Super that we had previously, it ran at around 30 FPS at native resolution. You could get 60 if you put DLSS on. I think DLSS in balanced mode gave you a locked 60 FPS. Now the frame rate, it isn't locked at 60 FPS. During the fight with Rollo Tomasi, remember him? He's the guy that gets away with it. You fight Rollo Tomasi. On that fight, it does dip below 60. So you maybe need either to turn some settings down or get a little bit of DLSS in there. I will show you that fight there. But it just dips. It dips into the 50s. It's not massively it's not a massive frame rate dip, and it's fine if you've got a variable refresh monitor, so you can maybe put up with that, or you could look at increasing the either adding DLSS in. It's not much of a visual loss. DLSS quality mode would probably do it. Right, so this is the part where the frame rate does kind of tank a little bit. You can see here, before we get to the fight, it is still running in the 70s. Again, with all the ray tracing enabled, but as soon as we go through here, and there's a lot of obstacles flying around in this fight, so you can see here it does start to dip below 60 FPS here. There he is. This is, I mean, yeah, so here we go. Defeat Rollo Tomasi. He killed, what's his face? What was his name? Guy Pearce, that was his name. Killed his father. So let's avenge that for him. You can see here, yeah, frame rate down into the high 50s, but other than that, it's still, it's still perfectly playable, the game there. So you're getting a little bit of a dip as it pushes. There's a lot of objects flying around, as you can see. He's using the telekinesis, if you will, and we're using telekinetics. We'll go with that as our thing here. But yeah, other than that, it does run pretty well. This is the kind of worst performance that we played it for over an hour. I've kind of just messed around with the physics in the game mostly, and again, it never dipped at all below 60 FPS while I was messing around. Beating up, shooting all those desks up, and seeing how they crumble was quite nice. Anyway, we'll move on to something else now. And yeah, but control runs fine at native res. But again, a little bit of DLSS on there. We'll fix that because it is GPU bound there, dipping below 50 FPS. It doesn't dip below 50, but we're getting below 60, which is, not what we really want. Okay, so we've now moved on to Crysis Remastered at 1440p on can it run Crysis settings? And the answer is no. No, it can't. So this is 1440p with the ray tracing on. Now, we should point out that Crysis uses a different form of ray tracing from most other games, and most games use DXR for ray tracing, and again, that is a DirectX protocol. This uses software ray tracing. So it does take advantage of the RT cores on the 3080 Ti, but you can see by the GPU usage and the frame rate, we're not GPU bound in this game. It is heavy into VRAM on can it run Crysis. I think it peaks at just over 10 gigabytes, which is fine. We got 12. But this game, it's not a good test really for ray tracing. And I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Crysis. I never really was a big fan of the Crysis games here. But yeah, the frame rate is kind of all over the place. The GPU usage is not maxed out, as we can see here. It's not hitting. It's only around 70% usage. You would expect ray tracing, if they're using fully hardware accelerated ray tracing RTX effects here, you'd expect it to be maxing out the graphics card. You'd expect that to be sitting at 100% usage, and it does in all other games. You can see the reflection of our character steering using the steering wheel here. But other than that, Crysis, I never thought it was a great game. It was a great tech demo, I think, Crysis, but as a game, I'm just not a big fan of it, to be honest with you. I was never a fan of the original. It never ran well either, the original. And the remaster, again, just does. I mean, these settings I wouldn't recommend. Like, this is just an extreme example, but we are mostly CPU bound because, again, I think the software ray tracing, the ray tracing is on can it run Crysis levels of ray tracing that we are running here, but you can see it's not maxing out the graphics card. I think it only does ray traced reflections are the only thing that's done with the ray tracing. But yeah, I'm never been a big fan of this game. Always thought it's just a glorified tech demo, but and it's not really a true test of the RTX 3080 Ti. Just because it's not maxing out. It'd be interesting to see what it would be like without the ray tracing, because I think the ray tracing is very heavily CPU bound in there. But we'll move on to something else. I just threw this in there just to see, just to show what it was like, with ray tracing on. So the answer to your question is no. No, technically it can't run Crysis. Alright, we've moved on to Cyberpunk 2077. We are running 1440p, all the ray tracing on. We're running on Psycho settings for the ray trace lighting, and we're also running Psycho for the ray trace lighting, and Psycho for the screen space reflections, SSR. Ray trace reflections are on. I thought I'll steal this car. We'll go for a drive around the city, and I don't remember how to change it from first person to third person, but as you can see, we're going to need DLSS for this because I mean, it's sort of 40 FPS in the 30s. It's not great. It's not great, but don't run on psycho settings. Really, this is optimized for future GPUs. I turned the radio station off, but we'll skip ahead and do some driving, and we'll show you the performance between 30 and 40 FPS is really the benchmark here. We need to turn those settings down and put DLSS on just to make sure that we're getting 60. I think 60 is achievable in this game, but we've got the option there. The good thing about having an Nvidia card is having the option to run at 60 frames per second with DLSS. I think DLSS is a requirement for this game. I was met with several crashes, and I did have to download the patch several times. I had to download a 52 gigabyte patch, which was fun. Then I had to download a 17 gigabyte patch. That was the repair install with 17 gigabytes. It still didn't run then. And then I had to run a what was it? Another 15 gigabyte patch. So a bit of a pain to get this one running. I hadn't played it for a while because I was gonna wait until my RTX 3080 came initially. So now that I've cancelled that and got the 3080 Ti, I'm still not that impressed by it. So I hadn't played this very much. But anyway, does it run well? Not really. But yeah, DLSS is going to be required for this to get it running at a reasonable frame rate here. Alright, let's move on then to Resident Evil Village at 1440p once again with full ray tracing. As you can see, it can render big boobs perfectly well. The big boob lady's dead, unfortunately, so we had to use the Duke's man boobs there, but yeah, runs excellent. The ray tracing in this it's very low resolution, the ray traced reflections. Because bear in mind, this runs at 60 FPS on consoles, so yeah, you can get, frame rates into the hundreds. We're just doing Heisenberg's factory here because that's where we were in the game. So I don't know how good this will be, but there's some dudes here to shoot here. But yeah, the game runs perfectly well in the 140 FPS region, which is quite nice, even with a whole load of effects on the screen. Again, we're using ultra settings. Ray tracing's on high, but again, the ray tracing, it's not overly impressive. You've got ray traced lighting, ray traced global illumination, and ray traced reflections, but it's all done quite low resolution, particularly the ray traced reflections in the game are pretty low quality, but yeah, it runs fine. I haven't tried the outdoor sections in the village because recording time was limited, and that's where I had got to in the game at this point. I haven't really played huge amounts of this. Dude can open the door there with their little things on their head there. But yeah, this game runs again perfectly fine. You can do 4K 60. Initially, it was running at between 50 and 60 FPS when I booted it up, and I wondered, why is it doing that? But I had the resolution scale set to 2 instead of 1, so it was running at double 1440p, so it was running at 5K resolution. That's why it was between 50 and 60 FPS, so I'm guessing 4K would be quite easily doable on this. Certainly with the 3080 Ti, it is quite a capable 4K card. But yeah, it's quite an impressive looking game. I do like the way this game looks, and I like the way the game ran. Again, on the 2070 Super, it would run at, it ran at between 70 and 80 FPS, so we're getting a kind of doubling of that. We're, above 144, which is nice because I've got a 144 hertz monitor. So yeah, 1440p, high refresh rate. This card is quite a good card actually for 1440p high refresh rate. Gaming for ray tracing, you're going to be limited mostly to 60 FPS. Bear in mind, people are wondering, why are we doing 1440p and not 4K? Because if you look at most of the games with ray tracing on, if you use DLSS in quality mode, 1440p is the resolution that it renders at. So checking this out at 1440p isn't a bad idea. We do get a bit of a frame rate spike here. You're gonna see that. We'll show you that in a bit when this dude comes to life. He's gonna come to life. It's not really a spoiler because Whenever you see a dead enemy like that in a Resident Evil game, you just know he's going to come to life. I'm sort of chickening out because I know he's going to come to life. So I'll just sort of chickened out here, and there's not enough power to open that door. So we're going to have to go in here and face this dude. But yeah, the lighting effects are really nice here. That's not a door there. So we're going to have to fight this dude as soon as we get the item in the room. You know, it's classic Resident Evil. There we go, we got the mold for the machine that was in the other room. So here he comes! So yeah, I'm anticipating it. You see, I was anticipating he was going to come. Got my shotgun at hey matey. Sorry. Oh, you shoot him in the glowy thing. Alright. Nice, don't drill. Ah, see, look at the frame time, go crazy. Not only is it painful being drilled, but it's painful for the frame time as well. You saw those big spikes in frame time. Let's see if we can kill this dude. Yeah, the frame rate's back to normal. So there you go. There's another reason not to get hit by his big drill thing. A, it hurts. And B, the GPU doesn't like it. I sniped him there. That got rid of him. There you go. So yeah, Resident Evil Village. Don't get chained. Don't get drilled by that guy. And your frame rate will be fine. Right, so we're going to finish this look up with a look at Vulkan ray tracing. So this is Wolfenstein 2 Youngblood. Again, this was the kind of expansion pack to Wolfenstein. Ignore that dedicated video memory error. You're met with that quite amusing message there in the benchmark. Again, this is native 1440p on Uber settings, not mein Lieben settings, but we're running Uber settings. Don't look at the swastika. If you're looking at that, you're a Nazi. Please don't look at that. Yeah, so you get this amusing error message. I don't know, I mean, it's got 12 gigs of VRAM, but you've got that heap 1 and heap 2 thing. Heap 0 seems alright. And you can see it's using 5 gigabytes, so it detects your 12 gig of VRAM. Again, no resolution scaling here. There are quite a number of next-gen features that are in this game. We'll try the Lab X benchmark as well. So it does feature DLSS. It also features VRS, variable rate shading, which is Nvidia calls it adaptive shading. So it does use that as well. It also uses ray tracing, and it is running on the Vulkan API, as you can see here. So it's a bit different from DXR. So this is Vulkan's kind of implementation. Only ray traced reflections are enabled, but as you can see, the performance isn't affected by the lack of VRAM according to that, as we're getting like I think it's 135 FPS this benchmark averages. I'll let the benchmark run, and we'll show you the end of the benchmark here. I haven't played the game because it wasn't very good, so I just downloaded it because it was part of Game Pass, and I didn't want to download Battlefield 5 because it was 90 gigabytes, and I didn't really want to do that. But there you go. See, 130 FPS was the average, low minimum of 29. Again, at full resolution. So anyway, that is all for this video. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.